Welcome to the Frenzy, everybody. It's the Iceman Matt Freites, and we have a packed show tonight. We're going to talk a lot of Indiana football, and I don't just mean the Hoosiers. Welcome to the show, everybody, on this wonderful Thursday night, and of course, with me, as always, my faithful co-host, the coach, Bradley Powell. What's up, pal?
Iceman, what the full name, man? Government name, I love it.
Like I said, sexiest co-host in America, right here.
Oh,
hey.
Stugotz just caught a stray there. Didn't even know it.
No, I think Rick caught a stray. Didn't know it.
Been a busy week, man. A lot of fun, a lot of interesting stories happening in the world of sports in general, not just football. I think there's some interesting things that we're going to talk about in relation to kind of coach firings, right? In relation to, I think the NIL era just changed how universities are handling these coaching changes. So we'll get to talk about that a little bit. Some other coaching changes that have happened in the world of sports. I know one thing we didn't even talk about this, totally random because I just looked it up last night. Playoff baseball is on the horizon. I mean, there's very few things that compare to playoff baseball, man.
Well, so did you see Cal Raleigh for the Seattle Mariners hit his 59th and 60th home run? He's a catcher, by the way. It's one of the greatest stories in baseball in a while. And the Mariners are on a real hot streak. So I think that there are going to be some great stories in baseball. I mean, this is called Football Frenzy, obviously, but we're a sports podcast. And October, I will admit to you that October in baseball, to me, has always felt so different than any other playoff in sports outside of maybe late round Stanley Cup playoff action. The crowds go from your standard issue baseball crowd in September, like the last day of the season. They said, you know how crowds are, the murmur, there's
Sure.
there's like a calming, soothing presence of just the general sounds of a ballpark. And they go to rapid frenzy literally the next day. And yes. I love that about baseball, especially when you get to the later rounds and it gets cold and everybody's there. I don't know. There's something about playoff baseball. You're right. And I think this year you're going to see some real fun stories. And hopefully this guy, Cal Raleigh, his nickname leaves a little bit to be desired. The Big Dumper. Not great.
That is terrible.
It is terrible. I agree.
That's the worst nickname ever.
I agree. I hope in the offseason they get a marketing campaign going. They can actually get it right. But he came out of literal nowhere this season, and I think it's really cool. So we do have a lot going on in just general sports. The NBA's on the way, hockey's on the way, and by the way, Bradley basketball is on the way. So there's a lot happening here in the end of the season. And we know one person in the chat who's super excited about that.
That's right. No, absolutely is, and it's right around the corner, so that's exciting. We'll get Braves Talk fired up soon enough. And then to add to the dumper conversation, don't worry, this isn't going to go where you think it's going to go. There was a local restaurant in a small town in the Peoria community, Central Illinois area. They had opened this restaurant and they named it after their grandfather, or what their grandfather's nickname was. And the restaurant was called Dumpies, which may be the worst name ever for a restaurant. It didn't last long.
Not great.
I mean, I don't even know if it was open for a year. Now, granted, the place that it was and it wasn't a great location.
Was it dump?
It wasn't. The building itself was decent. I think it was fairly new, but I would never experienced it myself. But never took a dump at Dumpies. But I don't know. The results speak for themselves. I guess it is no longer in business.
Before we talk about sports, I will give you a lovely anecdote that Uncle Barry, UB, who has been on the show 2 years ago, gave me. And if you go to a restaurant and there are more than 2 stalls in the men's bathroom, get out, because it's not that kind of place, because you do not need that many stalls for men in a restaurant. It means that they're doing way too much pooping. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I got you. He told me that, and I was like, that is super solid advice. And he's like, especially if it's at a buffet, just get out of town.
That is fascinating. I'll never forget that. I'm going to think about that every time. You walk in the door of a restaurant, just go straight to the restroom, check out the stall count.
Excuse me, it's a Mater D here. How many stalls do you have in your bathroom? I need to know this before we actually get on here, because if you really think about it, like how many dudes do that in a restaurant? Not many. So
man, I've in my lifetime, there have been literally 1 or 2 moments where one of the times I was with our good friend Ryan. We were at a Golden Corral of all places, which definitely is a place.
Exactly.
Definitely is a
Proves
place
his point.
that needs mini stalls.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. It was a place just like that. So anybody who is out there listening or viewing right now, keep that in mind. Count the stalls before you get out there.
It's good
So
advice.
the other thing I want to do is shout out Sky Zone in Springfield, Virginia, because this past Sunday I had to go to yet another children's birthday party. However, I will say they had Red Zone on the big screens there for all the dads that were there. And so God bless you to Sky Zone in Springfield, Virginia, because I was able to watch football while also semi kind of sort of paying attention to the kids in the trampoline park.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a couple of those locally. It's so funny because every time I watch one of those little, TikToks or YouTube short, whatever, and it's like, I am so and so. I've worked in emergency rooms for 20 years, and here are 5 things I would never let my child do. Number one, go to a trampoline park. It's like the first thing on the list every time.
Honestly, just letting your kid go to any place where there are mass amounts of children playing in a hyper fashion is just not a great idea for the kids, not a great idea for the adults. It's my personal hell, but yet somehow I find myself there half the weekends of the year.
There needs to be I know someone who last week, that fellow Notre Dame fan friend of mine, um, we were talking about getting together and watching a game sometime, and he goes, "Yeah," he's like, "This weekend's not gonna work though." He's like, "I have a wedding to go to," and I'm like,
Who still has a wedding at
who
our age to go to?
who?"
Wow.
Well, no, it was
Younger
a
fella.
younger girl that was a close family friend, and I'm just like, he's like, "Trust me, I've aired my grievance," he's like, "But this is one that I can't miss," and, and he gave me some context, and he's right, he can't miss that one, but, goodness gracious, like, I get the fall's a beautiful time of year, to have an outdoor wedding or really any wedding for that matter, but, fall weddings, fall weekend, children's birthday parties, I mean, I just kinda got coaxed into having one a couple weeks ago for Carver. They should just be banned.
Well, speaking of can't miss, apparently this comment here, they can't miss buffets despite how disgusting they are. So we seem to have outed some people here who love them some buffets. So I'm not judging. I'm just saying. Apparently buffets are can't miss, including the multiple stalls in there. So look, man, can't miss. Indianapolis Colts. I just have a straight pointed question for you. Are they actually good?
Well, yeah, I asked you that, right? Over the weekend on Sunday, I was like, the Colts actually good. They might be. The NFL season's a long season. They're out to a 3-0 start. They've looked good. They've resurrected the career of Daniel Jones, aka Indiana Jones.
Dude,
And
he looks kind of excellent. Like that's the thing is they're not winning weirdly. Their point differential is like 47.
did I send you there was some sort of meme or whatever, and it was like Saquon Barkley, Daniel
Yes.
Jones, and there was another person whose name I can't, and like it showed their records of their current teams. It was just like the
Mm-hmm.
problem, and the Giants are still 0-3.
Yes.
Um,
Uh, So the Colts, I think, had talent to be at least decent. Jonathan Taylor is obviously very good, and he's having another transcendent season. Whether he
he's
lasts the whole
healthy. He's
season, yeah, he's
healthy right
healthy.
now.
But
So the big
whether he lasts is a different story. But the thing I will point out about the Colts is they have played the Dolphins, who we know are bad, the Titans, who we know are bad, and they beat the Broncos, who we think are good, but have now lost 2 games in a row on walk-off field goals. In the Colts game, it was kind of a weird situation with the leverage call and all that. So it's hard to tell, but what I come up with is it's 3 games. I mean, if you look at 3-0 teams in the NFL, which we're going to talk about some later, it's like not all of these teams are equal. It's a 3-game sample. There's 14 games to go. But the only thing I will say is they have looked better, and it seems to me that everybody forgot Daniel Jones can run, and he seems to be mobile. They're doing so many things, and like I said, it's not like they've won with him looking like we expect him to look. He's legitimately looked excellent.
I mean, I was higher on him than most people when he came out of college. Like when he went to the Giants, like, a lot of people didn't like it. I was like, I think the kid can play a little bit. And I mean, we've seen this before, and we'll see if there's staying power, I guess. But I mean, there's plenty of film out there on Daniel Jones. Like, and
Yeah,
so it's not like this is just a deal where like the league's gonna catch up. Like you
no,
see that with some rookies once in a while where like somebody comes along and then once people hone in on their tendencies, things change a little bit. But I I think the kid can play. It sucks because I like Brian Daboll, but like it's kind of an indictment indictment on him a little bit.
maybe, but also I think it's a Giants organization problem because I wonder if by selecting him as high as they did, they put unrealistic expectations on him that he was never going to live up to because it wasn't fair. He should not have been picked fifth or sixth or whatever he got picked. And obviously, they tried to resurrect that or those hopes so many times with so many different guys. And remember, they went to the playoffs the one year. We kind of thought that they had it. And he goes to the Colts. They brought him in. I think they're paying him like $10 million. And there were no expectations. I mean, he had to beat out Anthony Richardson. And many people thought, wow, Richardson must be bad if Daniel Jones beat him out. Perhaps something happened in the preseason that we weren't privy to that the coaches saw where they're like, Daniel Jones is clearly the better guy here. He's playing with house money at this point.
Sure. So 2 questions. The first one's probably the shorter answer of the 2. And I, of course, right now I just completely forgot what it was. So I'll go on to the second question.
Number 2.
If you go into the draft and you identify someone as like the guy, you're like, this guy can play. He's our franchise quarterback. Why? I mean, do you wait? Do you wait to draft him? I mean, like, why wait if you really believe that he's the guy? I mean, you don't know that someone else maybe has identified him in the same way.
Sure.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can blame a franchise too much for, taking them while they could. I don't know what that draft. I have no idea like what picks the Giants had throughout the draft or whatever.
Yeah,
But like,
but I think also there's so many draft pundits and there's so much analysis. Plus, obviously, they have their own scouts. And you'd like to think that they would see what other people are saying about a prospect. And a lot of the draft is trying to get your guy at a place that has value. And the reason that I say that is I understand what you're talking about, right? You want to take the best guy that you think is the best player. But also, when you take a guy that high, the expectations and the money that is associated with being picked that high now heap upon them. When maybe Daniel Jones was late first round, second round, maybe even fringe third round talent. Because if you're drafted back there, nobody expects anything of you. But when you're drafted that high, most people assume, and we saw this with Shedeur Sanders, by the way, why he didn't get drafted that high. And it's like they expect you to be that excellent. Because if you're the 5th pick in the draft, you're supposedly excellent, at least if you're going that high. But remember, too, teams are quarterback hungry. And at that time, we're still doing we just got to pick as many quarterbacks in the first round as we possibly can. Not quite the same anymore. I think Daniel Jones wouldn't be selected that high if he were to have come out of college right now. At least that's my opinion.
yeah, and so that's the thing is when you do draft someone that high, you sort of forfeit the ability to let them sit for a year,
There's that
and,
too,
and develop because
which I don't agree with, by the way.
you've got ownership and whatever that's like play the guy, we're paying him, play the guy. And especially if whoever the starter is, and a lot of times I mean, more often than not, it's some journeyman veteran that is there to coach, to mentor the youngster, not unlike what Russell Wilson's doing with Jackson Dart in New York currently. Um, and
Disaster.
which I heard he's been named the starter now going into this week.
Sure
And
has.
but I think that you're like you said, it sets a precedent when it comes to expectations, not just from the fans, but just from the organization as a whole when it comes to money. And that was part one that I was going to ask. It's not so much I mean, obviously where they drafted him is an issue, but didn't they like double down and give him a big extension?
Well, that was the
Is that what
thing, right?
happened?
Is they only really had their core team that year they went to the playoffs. They were kind of an aberration. I think they won 10 games and then they beat Kirk Cousins and the Vikings in Minnesota. And it was like, all right. And they had Saquon who's healthy that year. They had a great season and he was coming up on a payday. So they had a decision to make at that point. And they decided to pay him. Now, the thing is, they didn't pay him the going rate for starters. He was paid under that. So he wasn't paid like what Dak is being paid or what have you. Still $40 million a year, hamstrings you. And then Saquon left, right? So now you have a situation where they're paying this guy, they don't have as much talent, or the talent is injured, and he looks worse than he did the year prior. So is that on Daniel Jones? Is that on the organization? And some of it's a timing issue. And that's one place that NFL franchises find themselves so often is, do we pay this guy? Because the other question on the other side of that is, well, then who do we bring in? What's the plan from there? And many times the lack of a plan is scarier than the guy that you already have.
No, you're right for sure, and um, it's just I think we've talked before about. I've mentioned that it wouldn't surprise me if you see sort of quarterbacks not becoming so much like devalued over time, but that like teams will realize. I mean, let's look at like Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, right? Like, it's just like he just plugs a guy in. You know, I mean, it's like I think that you're gonna now when you have these so-called offensive gurus, I don't know if they worry so much about having a Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? I think sometimes they'd rather have the what most people would consider to be a system quarterback, a guy that's going to come in and just be coachable and do exactly what they tell them to do and play within the system. You can win a lot of football games that way if you get the right guy. And I don't know. Like I wonder if like the Brock Purdy's of the world are bad for quarterbacks and the future of quarterbacks and what they get paid. Like, are quarterbacks going to
Maybe
become not saying they're going to regress to the point of like because running backs have really become like devalued to some degree, right? I mean, like it's running back by
they're
committee.
easier
Nobody
to find because their shelf life is
is
so small.
shorter, and it's like it's running back by committee. The bell cow running back is kind of a thing of the past. And so it's like, do you think that quarterbacks are going to trend in that direction? Not to that severity or that degree, but like I wouldn't be surprised if you see people start being willing to pay quarterbacks less and take them later in the draft.
I think that this is my opinion, and also something I talked about, ironically, at work today, is the idea that we have misused what a franchise quarterback actually is. Because we say franchise quarterback when a team feels like they have a quarterback that's good enough, right? That you feel you have a solid starter. There is a difference between a franchise quarterback and a starting quarterback. Starting quarterbacks, solid, consistent starting quarterbacks are still difficult to find. And those guys are not cheap either, right? When you have your guys that you know, like Jared Goff, great starting
Just
quarterback,
thinking about it.
not a franchise quarterback. No shade at
Or
him at
is he?
all, right? Well, I don't think so because if I think of franchise guys is like they are a step above the other players in which you would build a franchise around that player. And there's
If he were a franchise quarterback, he'd still be with the Rams, is what you're saying,
correct,
right? They would never
right,
move off of him.
right. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, maybe Herbert, right? Like there's not many, is my point. There, you can
Sure.
count them on one
I,
hand,
I get what you're saying. No, that's fair. Good point.
right? Baker Mayfield, good starting quarterback, right? Like he has proven himself to be a top end starting quarterback, but not a franchise guy per se, because if he was, the Browns would have made it work. And there's no shade on that idea, but like every team drafted to try to get a franchise guy. Like every team, I guarantee you, every team would love to have a Mahomes because what it does is it extends the window, right?
Yeah.
The Chiefs can look bad, not bad. They can look mediocre this year, but they got that guy. So next year could be another 13-win
Well, look at
season because you've got the guy.
John Elway, right? Like the
Yeah.
guy like had a lot of the Broncos had a lot of success early in his career. And then, and then he got those, was it 1 or 2 Super Bowls there at the end?
At
You know
the
what I
end.
mean? It's
Yep.
like,
Back to
and
back.
so it's like you said, it expanded that window. It's like, hey, as long as we got this guy, like
Yes.
we're gonna be able to, yeah, we might have down years, but like if we can put the right pieces together. I mean, look, I mean, how many it's insane to sit there and think about um like the Patriots offense over the Tom Brady's career there. I mean, yeah, you could throw like Randy Moss and Gronk. There's a few of those guys, but like their offense was just full of role players,
Yes.
essentially. Role players and Tom Brady.
Right. Role
And
players and a guy who knew how to play the position in a way that maximized his skill set and adapted. Because Brady, one thing that he did that goes under the radar, I think, is his release time got so much faster as he got older because he's like, I don't want to stand back here and get hit.
yeah,
And Joe Burrow, you could take some advice from that. But anyway, the point is the window is extended. But if you think about these guys who are playing, like realistically, what do you think the window is for Brock Purdy? I mean, this is not saying he's not worthy of the money he's paying, but realistically, are you thinking like a 10 to 12-year window for Brock Purdy? Probably not, because he's good,
but
but
he's
it's
replaceable.
yes.
Like
Yes.
it would not be hard to find someone better with a better
Right.
skill set. Yeah.
If you take Josh Allen off the Bills right now, their entire season and trajectory as a franchise is done, right? Like you can't replace the way he plays and the talent level that he brings, the elevation that he brings. But there are so many guys that are starters that if they were replaced, the team could still be good. And like it's such a nuanced argument because it depends on so many factors. Like Jared Goff is the right quarterback for the Detroit Lions, really. Like if they had Lamar Jackson, they wouldn't probably look the way that they did. They may be better, but they wouldn't look the way that they did now. But like, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I gotta think. I was thinking about Jared Goff, and I gotta think that dude's got to be so. I just feel like him, Dan Campbell, the the Detroit Lions. That's just like perfection.
Yeah.
It's just the perfect, and like because it is a city that's been beaten down over the years. That's had to you know survive and be resilient. And you have a Jared Goff who every people have doubted at every turn of his career. He just hasn't been quite good enough. When the Rams were good, when he was with, well, it wasn't because of him. It was Sean McVay, and everything else. I mean, obviously they thought enough of him to send him to Detroit, and for an aging Matthew Stafford. And I just think that it's he's a he fits so well in that like blue collar lunch pail, like let's overcome some adversity mentality and culture that Dan Campbell has embraced and cultivated in Detroit. It's just they play so hard, man. Like I watched them here and I'm like, they just play hard,
Mm-hmm.
which is not something that you see frequently in the NFL. Like you see guys that take plays off and so avoid contact and stuff like. And I don't blame these guys. Like they're trying to sustain careers and make money. And it's like they want to stay healthy. I mean, but I just feel like the Lions play hard and it's going to serve them well.
Well, it comes down to I hate using this word because I feel like it's overused, but coaches that come in and build a culture, and whatever that culture is, as long as the players are bought in, like what makes Josh Allen and the Bills so viable with him at quarterback is those dudes play for him. Like they're so into him as their guy. And that is a palpable feeling that you can see through the television. Like when that guy takes a big hit, they're with him, right? Like they're there. Dan Campbell's the same way in that
Yeah.
he has this infectious vibe about him. And if you want to learn more about Jared Goff or get a better appreciation for him as a human, watch Quarterback Season 2 because he is in that. And you hear so much about Dan Campbell talking about Jared Goff. And it's like there's almost like a father-son vibe happening between the two of them. And that's another element of whether a quarterback is going to work for your franchise long term, how big the window is. What is the relationship between the coach and the quarterback? And that's where you look at these franchises like the Bears, they've never had that, right? Like all these quarterbacks and misaligned coaches, misaligned GMs, all the bad franchises are perennially bad, seem to have that incongruent nature to their relationships, and the good teams don't.
Speaking of coaches, and the way they go about their business, I
Yes.
think I don't know if it was on like Julian Edelman's podcast, but it was like him and Matt Light was there, and they had a guy I think who is maybe a rookie on the Patriots or a young player on the Patriots, and they were talking to him, and he's like, when I did like my pro day or like when he went for a workout, he goes, Vrabel like suited up, and he's like, we
Yeah.
did like one-on-ones like for an hour, like, and I'm like, that's crazy, like, I mean, because I mean, and it's like, hey, you know what? If you're in shape enough to do that, what better way to find out what a guy's made of than to just like put the pads on and go, right? I mean, but that's like, I mean, but think about it from a player's perspective, like what kind of respect that has to build, if you're like, this dude's ready to put his money where his mouth is right now.
Yeah, it certainly is endearing to a certain type of player, but obviously there's so many different types of players in the NFL that something like that isn't necessarily valuable to them. But I totally understand what you're saying is most of the time in the fraternity of football, you love other football players in the sense of like you want other dudes. And like Mike Vrabel, whether he's an elite coach or not, isn't hinged on this, but he's a dude for sure, right?
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy who's gonna he's going to participate. Like I think it was 2 weeks ago when he's running down the sidelines on either a pick six or a punt return. I mean, you want to see that. You want to see your guy so engaged. It makes you feel better as a team. And there's, again, so many factors, but the Colts, good for now, but we're going to revisit during the
Yeah,
season.
back to the Colts.
Good for now. We're going to talk about quarterbacks, and I want to kind of get your feeling on this because we talk about pro quarterbacks, but in college football, two programs, one of them I think a lot of people thought was going to be a playoff contender, Oklahoma, lost John Mateer for I think it's like 4 weeks with a broken hand, which is like
That
the
hurts.
worst. Yeah, it really hurts. And then you got Steve Angeli at Syracuse. Now Syracuse is not right now ranked, but everybody loves him some Fran Brown, it seems. After some unlikable things, he now seems to have captured the attention of people. And of course, they lose their quarterback. And I don't know if you saw his quote, but they asked him, how are you feeling? What's the vibe of the team after losing your quarterback? And he said, that's why we bought two.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's the way you got to go about your business these days. But um, it's it makes me think of I heard something the other day where they were talking about gosh, I can't it was must have been somebody that was involved with the Colts back when Peyton Manning was there, and they might have asked Tom Moore, who was the offensive coordinator at the time. They said, "Oh, how often, does the number 2 quarterback get reps?" He goes, "Well, if Peyton ever gets hurt, we're fucked, and we don't practice fucked."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, good, forgive my language, but like, good, fair point. And so, but these days, though, just with you just, especially the college level, you never know. There's so many, as much as they run the quarterback and stuff like that, injuries are going to happen and you got to have a guy ready to go. It's not like in the NFL, like if you got a franchise quarterback, it's like, okay, whatever, we'll write this season off. Next year, we'll be back in business. It doesn't really work that way in college. Um, but talking about those guys and talking about like Steve Angeli, he was so. I mean, there's a good. I mean, he was well liked at Notre Dame. There was a good portion of the fan base that really wanted him to be the guy going into this season. He had been there. He was actually like a Brian Kelly recruit, had been there, put in his time, and like when he did have chances to play, like he played the Sun Bowl when Sam Hartman after that season and it was great in the Sun Bowl, came in that
I
game
remember
against
that.
Penn. Came in that game against Penn State and led a crucial drive for points at the end of the half, and so well liked. I mean, yeah, sure. There's things about his skill set that you could pick apart if you wanted to, but the guy, he's kind of like we talk about some of these other guys. Like he's just a dude. Like he's one of those guys that just plays hard, and he seems to be well liked by his teammates. He's kind of a cool customer. He doesn't seem to get too high or too low. And Syracuse is really, they were firing on all cylinders with him at the helm on Saturday, and to see him go down and the thing is he got dinged up earlier in that game
Mm-hmm.
and came back in. And then when I turned it back on, I saw he was like, God dang it, man. Like, because I mean, I think everybody was Notre Dame fan wise, like everyone was rooting for Steve to be successful there. And I'm thankful that CJ Carr is what he's been because I didn't want to listen to the fact, well, look at Steve Angeli, what he's doing. You could have had that guy, that I've not heard a peep of that. And like, rightfully so at this point, but like it really stings for him because the kid deserved to go somewhere and play and get his time and get his shine, and he was getting that. And to see it cut short by injury really sucks. I don't know who the backup is. I guess I saw him play
Yeah, he finished the
briefly.
game.
Yeah, I saw him play briefly on Saturday, and he seems like maybe he's a more mobile guy. Steve is not mobile at all, so that might add an element to their offense. They can try to add to the playbook and the scheme. And then the other one I think, that we had on the list was talking about Arch.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know, has there been any talks about, I mean, are they still trying to pretend that he's not injured in some way?
So this is something we were going to talk about later, but it's a good segue to that because I want to ask you a question. Well, first of all, question about injured guys. In college, do you feel like as a program or as a fan, you should feel less worried when your starter goes down? Because in college, the biggest detriment to a backup is just that he hasn't had reps in meaningful games. But like there is not a chasm between your backup and you're starting quarterback like there is in the NFL. Like almost every team, the backup is like decidedly worse, and you're just hoping for 500 football. But in college, you are recruiting guys that you're hopeful are going to be a starter. I mean, obviously with transfer portal,
Yeah,
lots
they
different, but
usually
you get
have
the
elite
idea.
talent, just
Yes, right.
limited experience and reps.
Because normally you don't get recruited to be a backup because you're mediocre. You get recruited to be a backup and you fight for the job, and the more experienced guy or whoever gets it. So in these two cases, I would assume that if you're a fan, you're probably like, well, that sucks. But you hope that the guy that they recruited behind him can come in and be a starting quarterback and be a meaningful quarterback. Is that an unrealistic expectation at the college level?
No, it's not, and this is the unfortunate part about it. So, like, let's talk about Syracuse, for example, like a program that's like, I think they hope to be on the rise under Fran Brown. So you have Steve Angeli, who's going to be your guy. He goes down. So now you got to play, and I don't know the age of the backup. I don't know if he's a youngster or what. But let's say he was. Let's say he's a freshman, sophomore, something like that. That like he's the future.
Look it up,
Now
Jonah.
Jonah. Pull it up, put it on the poll. Anyways, so let's say he comes in and he has a great season and looks good. You've just lost him. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
gonna be gone next year.
Right.
And that's what sucks is like because you would have at least had him next year. You know what I mean? Like 'cause no one would have saw him play, and you would have at least got him next year to be able to build on what's hopefully going to be a successful season this year. But now this kid's going to play, and everyone around the country is going to see his talent. And in the modern day climate of college football with NIL and transfer portal, you're going to lose your future. Assuming, and this is I'm making some assumptions here. He may not be. He may be a senior. I don't know, but like, let's assume that he's a young guy, or let's just talk about that scenario. If it's a young guy that gets forced into action at one of these schools that's considered to be a lesser uh, caliber school in the college football landscape, he's going to get plucked away by a bigger program. And
Theoretically, I think it depends because now Fran Brown has been quoted. It was great. He was asked about how are you going to handle other coaches and programs coming in trying to poach your players. And to paraphrase, he said, I ain't no bitch. So I think Fran Brown is hoping to keep the guys there.
yeah, I mean, I'd hope so. I don't. The tough part about football at Syracuse, and this may change now.
You just said
Um,
football at Syracuse. That pretty much sums it up.
That's what I'm getting at. The tough part about football at Syracuse, and granted, John Boeheim's gone, but like Syracuse is a
Jim.
basketball school. John's his brother. I heard he's
Yeah.
a really successful coach somewhere. Jim Boeheim.
Perfect. Yeah. It's like Jerry
But
Christ, Jesus' brother.
or Justin Herbert,
Jake.
Jake, whoever. Anyhow, you get what I'm saying.
I
Is that
do. I do.
it's a basketball school is what I'm trying to get to here. I'll land the plane. Basketball school, hard to probably dig up NIL funds for the football program. And that's not unique to them. There's other schools around the country that battle that. I'm sure
Sure.
Kansas, Kentucky,
Kansas.
Duke, I mean, those are probably schools that deal with the same thing where like there's money. Like UCLA is one. Like
Uh-huh.
I mean, you talk about a program that
Woo.
there's money there, but like I mean, their NIL for basketball is legit. Um,
Wow.
their
UCLA
football
football is
NIL,
a dumpster
their
fire.
football NIL is
Oh
I don't
boy.
know what it is, but I have to imagine it's probably on par with some group of 5 schools.
It's not great. At least the product on the field has not been great. So I wanted to ask you about that because we were kind of talking about quarterbacks in the NFL and all that. And it was like, well, there's injured quarterbacks in college. And I kind of wanted to, let's see. Oh, look at this. Syracuse has 5 freshman quarterback and 1 sophomore for
Let me look up
backups.
while
Yeah.
you're talking, I'll look up the name of the kid that came in and played on Saturday, and Jonah can tell us what class he's
Yes.
in.
All right. So we're going to move on to coaches. And actually, talking about NIL, losing players, all that is kind of appropriate here because a guy, I just want to say this again, I got a lot of shit because I picked Oregon to beat Oklahoma State. 28.5-point spread wasn't that crazy of a pick. Many people felt a way about me saying that Mike Gundy was on the hot seat. They went 3-9 last year, got absolutely destroyed by Oregon. And guess what, folks? Mike Gundy got fired by Oklahoma State this week. And they apparently, this is what I read, gave him the opportunity to resign but still coach the end of the season. And he's like, no, Give me my buyout. I'm out. So Mike Gundy
Interesting.
gets right. Well, sure. Mike Gundy gets fired, and this is not something that I think was like we weren't surprised.
No,
But
not at all.
Mike Gundy is the first domino to fall in an era in which he looked like he had not aged with the times. We talked about Dabo last week. Dabo gets the benefit of the doubt because he won 2 national championships. And again, Oklahoma State, this is probably one of the best runs Oklahoma State's ever had. It does not take away from the success that Mike Gundy had there. And he seemed kind of liked there too. But in today's world, you can't have a 3-9 season, look as bad as they have, and be as stubborn as he has been.
You're right. And what's so sad about it, I guess, is that he had much better teams in a much stronger Big 12 than what he exists in today. And so that was, that's unfortunate because he had he had much more success when the league was better, and he had that program in the top 10 um, consistently, and knocking on the door at times of making the 4-team playoff a few times, and it's really unfortunate to see it end this way for him. But you're right. I think that the changing times, and Nick Saban looks like a genius for getting out when he did.
Sure does.
Because it's changing so fast. And I think that the guys like that, man, like, I mean, 'cause, like, who else? I mean, Kirk Ferentz is the only other like OG out there that's still hanging on. And like at Iowa, though, man, if you can scratch out 8 or 9 games, like you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the only reason he's still there.
and
The
and uh,
expectations are so low.
that's what's so crazy. I mean,
Low, I
Iowa,
mean.
man, like, and I'm an Iowa wrestling fan, and they're a very good wrestling program. Like their wrestling coaches are, they're alums, um, they're twin brothers. They're alums. They were great wrestlers, and the head coach and the assistant head coach, and like they're not getting it done. But like the university is so loyal to them, like they won't fire. There's no way they will, unless like they do something crazy or like it just gets so bad. I mean, because like this is the thing is they're still finishing in the top 5 nationally, which is like crazy to say that like they should be on the hot seat because of that. But like it, it's I mean, it's comparable to like Alabama football, right? Like the expectation is not to be in the top 5.
There's
You
no
know what I
grace
mean? Like
period.
it's
There's
not
no
the
grace
standard.
whatsoever.
That's not the standard. Um and so it's just, but like Iowa's just one of those places. It's like the Steelers, man. Like they wear the same uniforms as the Steelers. It's just they're so loyal, and they just, as long as you can manage to be above average, like it's like and sustain that. That's apparently all that matters.
Well, it's like you say, like if you're a big time recruit, why would you go to Iowa? Like why would you live there? And the geography I think matters so much now because if you're a school that has good weather, hot women, and a lot of money at your disposal, tell me why athletes. I mean, not everybody can go there. Is my point, but like
Sure.
you understand what I mean? Is like it's a harder sell to get somebody to live in the middle of the country.
What I don't understand, and so let's compare Iowa City, Iowa to South Bend, Indiana, right? Similar demographics. Um, how like, but here's the difference: Notre Dame, Iowa. Now, grant the brand obviously significantly different,
100% matters.
but okay, let's just say South Florida, okay, like rich recruiting ground in college football. All right, I do not know how Kirk Ferentz goes and sits in the living room of a kid that lives in Hialeah and the Miami suburbs,
Good pull.
an 18-year-old kid, and talks that kid into coming to the University of Iowa. I can, and I'm not even trying to be, this is not even racial, but like I'm just talking about age and culture. Kirk Ferentz, Marcus Freeman. Those two guys walk in your locker room. You're an inner city kid in South Florida. Like I just don't like. I don't know how they even managed to compete. Truthfully,
Well, first of all, they're two completely different people. Like
sure.
Marcus Freeman is charming. He's lucky if the moms find him hot. That definitely has to help. I mean, he's a handsome man. Kirk Ferentz, I would assume that Kirk Ferentz is successful with a certain fringe level of players there, right? Because schools that are predominantly in the South are going to these hotbeds of recruiting, and they're probably poaching or trying to get the top tier of recruits. I would assume Kirk Ferentz is not getting the 4 and 5-star guys consistently from
Right,
those
right.
areas. So he's convincing a guy to go there who's probably getting recruited, by my estimation, by schools that are at the same level. And there's some factor that matters to them over some other school. That's the only thing I can think of.
He's getting the kids that don't have the academic qualifications to get into the service academies.
Okay, that's, I mean, but you
I
can
mean,
transfer from a service academy. We've seen that before.
right.
So, yeah, there's recruiting now.
If you want to be a tight end in the NFL, though, go to Iowa.
100%.
By all means.
Yeah, or a linebacker or a white linebacker in the NFL. Definitely go to
Yes.
Iowa. Like there's a certain, yes, there's, yeah. I mean, CJ Beathard made it to the NFL, Iowa quarterback, just saying. But predominantly, Iowa's not producing exactly top level offensive talent. But I want to ask you, Mike Gundy getting fired, is this possibly, now we've talked about this, but is this possibly a foreboding sign for a guy like Dabo?
Yes.
And at some point, like maybe
Yes.
not this season, but at some point, his bravado that we talked about last week is going to wear extremely thin if the results do not match.
Yes, I think this applies in business and in coaching and maybe in life in general. Adapt or die. Like, and these are a couple of individuals who have really struggled to adapt to the modern landscape of college football.
Right. Like really have. And Dabo, it can be argued that the reason he was so successful is because he had two really, really, really excellent quarterbacks back to back.
That's true. Yeah. Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. And like, that's what I truthfully, man, like I have never understood the Cade Klubnik hype at all.
He doesn't
Like,
look great.
no. And like, cause he came in, they pulled him because when DJ, whatever his name is, like when
Louis Ungalale, let's get it
when
right.
Dad and I went to the Notre Dame Clemson game a few years ago in
Oh, I
South
remember
Bend,
that.
and DJ started, and like Notre Dame like came out and really put it on him, and they brought Klubnik in, and they go, "Oh, this guy's supposed to be the future." I'm like,
Yep.
I'm just not impressed. I've never been impressed. I've never been like, "Oh, this kid's gonna be good." Or what. And I'm not even saying this because I'm a Notre Dame fan. Like I watched CJ Carr play, and I'm like, this dude's got it. Like
He looks good. Yeah, he does for sure.
And I've never watched Cade Klubnik play and been like, oh, okay, he just needs some time and experience, and he's going to be the real deal. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just have not seen that from him at all. And credit to Dabo, I guess, for being loyal to the kid, and not recruiting over him. But like,
He may have no other options. Like
I'm sure he could have if he wanted to have.
Yes, well, that's what I mean. It's his stubbornness has prevented him from having
Yes.
potentially other options. Are you telling me that Steve Angeli couldn't have been a great quarterback at Clemson?
Or literally like go pluck any group of 5. I mean, all these power schools do it every year, man. Like they go grab and I get that Clemson may think that they're above doing that. Maybe
He
that's
thinks he's
reserved.
above doing that. That's the problem.
I mean, hell, Notre Dame's done that the last 2 seasons. Sam Hartman and Riley Leonard.
Well, yeah. Remember Mike Gundy making fun of Oregon for spending money on NIL guys, and Dan Lanning's like,
Yeah.
that's the game, buddy.
Yeah.
And one of them's fired.
Did you see the clip? Was it Will Howard? How like he wanted to go to Notre Dame, like he was ready to commit to Notre Dame.
I did not.
Yeah, he was ready to he was going to commit to Notre Dame when he was. I can't remember what school it was he transferred from to end up going to Ohio State, but like he was going to go to Notre Dame, and then they called him literally like hours before he was going to commit. And they're like, "Hey, we're taking Riley," and I mean, like I think Riley Leonard was the right quarterback for Notre Dame at the time and for the program and everything else.
Hard to argue.
But
They made the national championship.
Yeah,
game.
yeah, and against Will Howard,
him,
right? So,
well,
yeah, he got the last laugh.
Yeah,
good
but
for him.
Will Howard was throwing to receivers that just were insanely disgusting.
Yeah, first round NFL draft pick receiver.
Yeah, come on.
And Riley Leonard was throwing to a guy that plays on the lacrosse team, and Jordan Faison. I mean, he's Notre Dame's #1 receiver still. Now.
I mean, I think it's going to be fascinating watching coaches that have been at places for a long time who are unwilling to or haven't adapted well, because there are coaches who are trying to go that route but haven't done it well, and some of it comes down to school and it comes down to their personality. The players are so different now, kids are so different now. thought it was fascinating because I'm like, this is not a good sign if you're Dabo. Like, you've got to start winning now because you can't do what you did last week if you keep losing. And you know what, buddy? It may not be good. Like, this season for Clemson may not end that great.
When does Dabo's like what? Because I mean, we could all agree, I think, that he's built up some equity at Clemson, right? Like, but when does that equity run out? Like, what's the tipping point where it's like, okay, like this isn't just an aberration. This isn't just some bad luck. This is like this is going south, and it's not going to turn around anytime soon. Do you have any sense of when that might be?
I think the issue is he continually turns it around at the end of the season when it's too late to be relevant in a national stage.
But good enough to like stay off the hot seat.
Kind of. They end up winning the ACC last year, making the playoff. Not one of us nor anybody in the country thought they were a viable national championship team. They just happened to beat SMU, who also got trounced in the first round. So there was no viable candidate in the ACC at all. And they
So you're saying they'll beat Miami? That's what'll happen,
right? Or Bill, yeah. But I'm telling you what, if they lose to Bill Belichick and UNC, whoo boy, let me tell you what, we're gonna do a live show after that because that'll be bad.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Boy.
But Dabo will spin the hell out of that though. He'll be like,
oh yeah,
this guy's one of the best coaches ever.
The only thing I'll say about it though is the difference between the two guys. I mean, Mike Gundy may get a job somewhere, but I think his prickly personality may not match some of these other schools. But I think Dabo will have a job in a heartbeat if they were to let him go because I think he still has a lot of meat on the bone. He said it himself. I'm 55. I'm not going to the beach.
Has Mike Gundy? Has there been talks about if he wants to? I mean, I'm assuming he wants to continue to coach. But I text you, he'd be great on TV. He would be a great TV guy.
You probably would be, and I think on the Big Noon broadcast, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But last thing before we get into some other stuff. So we're going to talk college basketball very briefly, but Bruce Pearl, who I would say is one of the more well-known college basketball coaches in America. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and successful.
Yeah. And he abruptly, I would say, retired this week. And the big news is not necessarily that. The timing of it, and then his son is being handed the job. Now, there's been a lot of other things happening here. There's rumors that he's going to be running for, I think, Senate in Georgia to take Tommy Tuberville's seat. So there's a lot of, fun stuff going on with that we won't get into. But a lot of people are honing in on he's wins and losses definitely has it there. Some recruiting scandals, lying to the NCAA, things of this nature, seeming pretty brazen about it. I think most people are more like, why does your son get to have this job? I don't know how you feel about stuff like this because there are certainly plenty of coaches' sons, in quotes, who are highly successful. But it feels really strange to me based off of how all of this happened, the timing of it and everything. I just didn't know if you had any thoughts on his son getting the job when just how all this happened.
I might have to subscribe or pay whatever it is now for search season because it's now behind a paywall. I bet you they know this. They know.
Oh wow, that sucks.
I bet you that he knows the scoop on kind of what's happened there behind closed doors. But I'd be fascinated to know like what the back end situation is. Like, is it a deal where like maybe some of the powers that be there were like, just didn't like him and were like, look, man, like we'd like you to move on. And he'd be like, I will resign tomorrow if you give my son the head coaching job.
If that's the case, though, they went to the Final Four last year. Like, what the fuck? Like, they want to move on.
Maybe they just don't like him, though. I
maybe.
mean, that happens.
Maybe he's too volatile because he is very open about his opinions on literally everything on X.
But you'd imagine his son's probably not much different, I would think. I don't know for sure, but usually the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
The element that I think of is, okay, so he's clearly a coach's son, but that doesn't necessarily make him the same guy. Are they doing him a disservice by handing him this job now that he really hasn't earned? And I mean that he hasn't been on the sidelines of lower level schools to build himself up. Generally, the progression is you are a coach at a lower, you start an assistant, you're a lower level guy, and then you become a head coach at different places, and you find yourself here. He almost was in a position he can't say no. Like, if they're going to hand him this job, he can't say no. But he also, I feel like, is set up to fail because now what if he's unsuccessful? Where does he go from there? He's got to start all over again. And it's a strange situation, especially the abruptness of like, okay, it happened right now. It's like the season
Well,
starts in
that's
3 weeks.
probably part of it. I mean, I'm kind of trying to finagle a similar situation with my wrestling coaching thing. Like, there's a guy that coached with me last year as a volunteer that I would like to hand it off to, but there's some, being in a school district, there's some union red tape. And so like the question that I've had, and the AD is on board with it, but he's trying to keep himself out of hot water is like, wait, what if I hit you up the first week of November and be like, hey, life's gotten real busy for me family wise. Like, maybe you don't have time to go interview everybody and you can just
Maybe.
slide this guy right in, like,
Sure.
and so, but I would not be surprised if that logic is at play in this situation, where it's like, hey, you don't have time to perform a national coaching search. If you want to maintain any continuity, you got to give it to somebody on staff, and the most qualified person to do that is my son.
Yeah. And
Um,
get parlayed it into a 5-year contract too. It's not a short contract. I mean, 5 years is pretty
yeah.
significant. They're planning on him being there for a
And
while.
to Jonah's point about Belichick's kid, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, maybe as far as like him, I think you could make that argument when they were with the Patriots. But like, I mean, he branched out on his own. He was a D coordinator at Washington last
Right.
year. I mean, like, he's done his own stuff a little bit, and now he's a D coordinator with North Carolina. Now, if like
He'd
Belichick
be a terrible
splits,
head coach.
if Bill Belichick splits and they give the job to Steve like next year, like, yeah, I guess we could have that conversation at that point. I mean, yeah,
That's the rumor, though. Like, that's the rumor is he
is
wants
that the
Steve to take it. Oh my
plan?
God, can you
Well,
imagine Steve Belichick recruiting? Oh my God.
it's got to be just as awkward as Bill Belichick recruiting. I mean, can you imagine if you take away the rings, like what? I mean, Bill Belichick's the weirdest guy ever. Like, I just,
Yeah, weirdest guy who's sending his 24-year-old girlfriend to the
oh,
recruiting
my
trail.
goodness,
Just
like, yeah,
saying.
that's all he's got to do is just send her down the road.
Marketing. Two perfectly good assets right there that you can send to every recruit's house. It'll get him there because, like, hey, you could meet this on campus because she went there. So
Dude, I gotta be honest with you. I think it's so weird. It's
it's
so
creepy as
weird.
hell.
It is
100%.
creepy.
I promise everybody who's listening or watching, if Brad and I are in our 70s and we're dating a 20-something-year-old, we will just go away forever because that's not something that
It's
ever
not
should.
happening.
It's no, no,
The OG's
no.
still waiting his turn.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a show when he finally gets the love of his life. All right, so college football, dude. Indiana, Illinois. I did not foresee that kind of a beat. I think Indiana's for real, buddy.
Dude, like,
They look
after
so good.
it's either they're really, really good or everyone was way too high on Illinois. And it could be a little bit of both,
Could be.
sure. But like, my goodness. Like, it wasn't like they just went out there and won. Like, I mean, they beat the shit out of Illinois.
Right.
And like,
Illinois' quarterback's no slouch, and they beat the hell out of him.
I mean, and I heard, we talked about it, I think, earlier this season. I heard people say that like the Indiana roster was better than it was last year. Um, I think that we all kind of slept on them, thinking like, is this a one-hit wonder? Do they sneak up on everyone? Like, how can you sustain? And maybe expected like some of this roster attrition. Okay, well, all the big boys will come in and poach this roster and tear it apart. Well, that didn't really happen, but I think we all still kind of operated like it did. Just assuming that they would regress to the mean. And goodness, man, like that has not been the case. The most fascinating, not to like jump into jump into another
No, go
like
ahead.
tangent, but like Kirk Signetti, like if they are what they appear to be, now they got a tough schedule. There's a long way to go.
Sure.
If let's say they get to the playoff, and let's say they make it to the round of 8 or the final 4 even, like I think there might have was there conversations on the TikTok in the comments about this that you posted about like if him leaving, or maybe it was a different one I saw, but like I don't know how you don't, if like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a program that might be available. you know I mean, I wouldn't leave there to go to Oklahoma State, I don't think. I mean, unless you're looking for an easier path. And
Right.
even Virginia Tech, like, I don't know that you couldn't convince me with certainty that it's a better job, like, resource-wise. I mean, maybe,
Well,
but like
the only thing that he'd have
the
going
path
for him,
to the playoff is
yes,
easier.
yes, and he was at JMU. So you have a Virginia pipeline with that,
Yeah.
which allows you, because keep in mind, everybody, Indiana is this good with a lot of recruits that transferred from James Madison. So
Yeah.
Kurt Signetti got those guys to go to that school on 81 in Southwest Virginia.
And Bloomington, Indiana is mostly in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like
Correct.
it's not far from Indianapolis, but like
Yes.
there's not a lot going on in Bloomington, Indiana.
What
And
what
it's
dawned on me though, Brad, is last year you and I and everybody else thought, oh, this is a good story. Indiana is having an aberration year. What we didn't realize is they weren't ahead of schedule. They actually, I mean, they weren't behind. They were ahead of schedule. You know what I mean? Is like, oh, so they actually were not supposed to be that good last year because this was the year they were supposed to be
yeah.
better. Nobody considered that, and they're going to lose this week for sure. But I'm just saying, like, they're that's how I felt watching that game. Is, oh, I misunderstood this all of last year.
So
I thought it was a great story. It's actually building a program.
yeah, so a couple of hypotheticals. Let's say that Billy Napier gets axed. Well, he's going to probably at Florida. Florida
Ur-
calls
Urban Meyer doesn't think so.
Florida calls Signetti. Like how
You don't say no.
I don't I agree. I don't know how like how you show up to the press conference the next day with a straight face after you turn down Florida to stay in Indiana. I just do not know.
No,
Or,
you don't
or
say no.
Auburn. Let's say Auburn fires Hugh Freeze.
Probably
You
gonna
know,
happen.
or Arkansas fires Sam Pittman. And now Arkansas is one that's interesting because that's not like traditionally a blue blood program, but it's in the SEC. Like that's
It's
one that I think is
similar to
more
the
of a
Indiana of the Big Ten. Like you have such a tough road if you're
yeah.
Arkansas.
And so I think that's one where maybe and where maybe you stay home, you stay in Indiana. I say home, I say that it sounds home, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know that everyone, my dad's one of these people that are just so desperate to see loyalty in college sports, but like money talks, man. And maybe Kurt Zanetti doesn't give a shit about money, and he's dead serious. People are like, "Oh, he just signed an 8-year extension," as if that
So
matters. Like it doesn't matter at all. All that means is that the school that hires him is going to pay more to buy him out. Like
lawyers
that's all
exist
it
for a
means.
reason. They'll figure it out.
Like and it's and maybe he does stay. I would respect the hell out of him if he stays and builds a dynasty at Indiana. Oh my goodness, I would respect the shit out of Kurt Signetti. But
Zero chance.
I don't. Yeah, I agree. I just don't think that happens.
The best thing for Indiana is they go 8-4. Keep him
And
here, another year, because I would like to think if they don't, like right now, if you were to have betting odds, he's definitely high in terms of larger programs that you consider a step up from Indiana wanting him and offering him a job. If they go 8-4, like that means that they go 5-4 the rest of the season, probably takes a little bit of the shine off. You're probably not going there, or they see it as he's peaked there. Let's try to get him here. But you know what I mean? Like if they go to the playoff again, 100% he's getting offered multiple jobs.
well, and the difference is this, and this might be what makes the decision for him is like Indiana likely lets him do whatever he wants. He probably gets to call a shot in
Probably.
Indiana. Um, Florida's not going to do that. Auburn wouldn't do that. Arkansas probably wouldn't do that. And like, why would you? I mean, Arkansas, it's another basketball school. It's like,
Yes.
why would you want to go rolling in there and play second fiddle to John Calipari?
Well, I was going to say,
You know?
now your coaching counterpart is Coach Cal,
Yeah.
which sucks
And
because he's like one of the greatest.
and so I think that he strikes me as a type of guy that wants to like have as much control over what's going on as possible. And in Indiana, he's going to have that. I mean, if he stays there, like, I mean, he's going to just pave his own way. I mean, he will be able to do whatever he wants. They might name it might become Kirk Signetti University. I mean, it's, I mean, I just think that like he could literally do anything in Indiana where like you go somewhere else that has, tradition and expectations and you got to play by their rules a little bit. And I don't think he's the type of guy that likes to do that sort of thing.
No, he doesn't seem like that, but he's older. His trajectory started later. All I know, man, is that I underestimated this team and I thought a little bit more highly of Illinois. Could be an aberration. Going to find out soon because Illinois doesn't get any days off. They don't
No, they
not get
don't.
any weeks off. So if they are good, We'll find out. If they aren't, we're going to find out too. But I did send you that thing today that said that they beat them so badly that all of a sudden it became a bad win.
Right? I mean, that's just it. It's just, I mean, that was a butt whooping, man. Good old fashioned Midwestern butt whooping.
I was out and I got a text from you that said Illinois, yikes. And so I was like, I got to check this out. It was like 48-10. I'm like, good God.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where you like, you almost felt sorry for Illinois, but time it got to the fourth quarter, I was like, I mean, Brett Bielema just had to be waving the white flag at that point.
Yeah, he's looking for the barbecue already because he's like, this ain't happening. We got to get out of here. All right. So you sent me another text, and I think it was about Big Noon. Do you remember what you said to me about Big Noon kickoff or whatever it is?
Well, it's ruining college football because they are, obviously as a pregame show, they're in competition with College Game Day, which is fine. Like, be your pregame show, go to a campus, whatever. But I mean, their game is going to be one of the noon Eastern time kickoff, or what, which is so. Even if it is legit, like a noon Eastern kickoff somewhere in the Eastern time zone, it is preposterous. Like, if we have to watch, which we did last year, Penn State and Ohio State play at fucking noon.
Yes.
Like, it is, it's the most absurd thing I've ever seen. And they literally took it to the extreme. You have what's probably going to be the best regular season Big 12 matchup of the year between Utah and Texas Tech.
Very
And
possibly.
the game kicked off at literally like 10 o'clock in the morning local time in Salt Lake City or wherever the hell Utah is. I mean, it's
It
just
looked like it too. They were playing like it was 10 a.m.
I mean, you talk about doing a disservice to a game of that caliber, all in the name of TV. Awful. Absolutely. And the crazy part is like I take that and you juxtapose it over the fact that Lane Kiffin's pissed that they have to play LSU at home at 3:30 and they
Yeah.
don't get a night game. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like Utah and Texas Tech just played at 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, I mean,
Yeah. Or on the flip
so
side of that, Michigan State had to play USC at 11 o'clock kickoff on the East Coast. Like, what the hell are we doing?
yeah, I mean, just absurd. Absolutely absurd.
I don't like it either. And it bothers me because there are usually a handful of games in a season that are meaningful. And you want them to be played at a time that maximizes everything for both of these teams. And look, Texas Tech and Utah on the same time zone for the most part, right? It's not like it was a huge difference in terms of like one wasn't an East Coast team, one wasn't a West Coast team. But 10 a.m. for a college football game, the crowd's not into it. The team has been up since the ass crack of morning when you got to get there, you got to do warm ups and all that stuff. And I don't feel like the results of the game was meaningful. Yes, if you're a Texas Tech fan, you'd take that all day. But like, how do I know that Texas Tech is that much better than Utah, given the fact that that game was at the time that it was? Like, if you have that game in the afternoon or at night, I feel like it's a better experience. But again, like you said, they're fighting for TV ratings, and it's not like big kickoff new the pregame and all that stuff is fine. It's whatever, but it's not like it's revolutionary to the point that it makes sense. It is hindering what I feel like are some of the best games of the week, and that pisses me off as a viewer.
Well, it's like it's indicative that like of the fact that they're like the last dog at the bowl because ABC usually has the really good like 3:30 game, it seems, and I think they've got to deal with the SEC or whatever, but they usually have a really good 3:30 game, and then ESPN has whatever night game they're usually going to do with um Kirk Herbstreit and those guys. And so it's like it's so like I get it, like that's the only time slot that's like there for them to carve out like their, but you know what? If you feel like you got the best game, go toe to toe.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
game
Like,
day doesn't care what time the game's at. They go to the
no.
place that has the best vibe or the vibe that matches what they're looking for.
Well, that's the
Who
thing is
cares
like
what time the game is?
and just because where they go, that's not necessarily the game that's the game that like ESPN has that night.
Right.
You know what I mean? That Herbie and Reese Davis do. Or
Yeah. This
is it
week they're
Herbie and Reese
going to
Davis or
Happy
Herbie and
Valley.
Chris Fowler? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and like the the videos of Herbie, and these are not like new over the years of the travel he does on these Saturdays where he goes and does game day. And like when his kid was in college, he was like flying to watch those games and then
Yeah.
flying to whatever game he was calling that night. And have you seen the one of him like where they're on the PJ and he's talking to Peter?
Oh, yes.
It's whatever about like, hey, we're gonna travel 4,000 miles this weekend because they're doing Thursday night football, doing game day, and then going to
Yeah.
do the game Saturday night or whatever. And it's like it's I don't know. It just feels Fox is more of I feel like they do better with the NFL.
Yeah,
They're
they do.
trying to carve out their space, their little piece of the pie in college football, but like kicking
I,
off games on the West Coast at 10 in the morning is not the way to do it.
Well, like even skipping ahead to some of the games we got coming up this week, we have almost the opposite problem where two amazing games, Alabama at Georgia, Oregon at Penn State, are on at the exact same time on two different channels. So you have to switch back and forth to watch. I mean, it's a first world problem to have.
Yeah.
But to the point here, Oregon Penn State would totally be a game that big noon kickoff would take and make it noon. It's at 7:30 at night. It's a whiteout at Penn State. It should be at night because that's when you get the best environment. And that's going to be a great
Yes.
environment. And we get it at the proper time. I realize that we're bitching and moaning about something like football, like start times, but God damn it, I'm paying a lot of money for my cable service. I want to watch the game when I should watch it.
And I don't even mind like two good games on at once. Like I get it, like you said, first world problem, but like you know what? Like most of us have the ability to do these days. We don't have them giant console TVs anymore. We have these flat
Your
screens
dad
that weigh
probably does.
10 pounds. Like, you know what? Just drag one out of one of the other room, set it up in the living room next to the other TV, put them both on. We've done that several times here. It's like, hey, let's go grab one of the other TVs and put it out here. We'll watch two games at once and whatever. Like, I mean, that's the way you handle it. Or like
I
now, if
know.
you got what I don't know, like does YouTube TV allow you to
Yeah.
do like the quad box with
Yeah,
different
you can
games?
create your own. So you can have any of the games
Yeah.
you want. Now, I will say
So
this, it does open up an opportunity sometimes. I feel like a not red zone specifically, but a red zone-esque product for college would be super helpful in certain aspects, or even if you did it by like conference, because it's helpful for us to be able to see as many plays as possible.
yeah.
I don't necessarily get to watch NFL football consistently, but being able to watch red zone and see all the good plays that happen, it allows me to feel a little bit more in tune
Let's do
with
it.
what's happening. And I feel like a college product, well, yes, could become overwhelming, has a lot of potential. I mean, even if you show top 25 games, you at least have the ability to go back and forth between these big plays in these games and kind of know what's going on. Because right now in college football, you have to deeply pay attention to all those games. And we don't know many people at our level with kids and jobs and stuff who have that kind of time to sink into it. It's why Budge is so good at what he does, because he has time to do that and he does sink his time into it.
Right. Hey, Football Frenzy is a good name for a college football show that just tracks like scoring opportunities. Like,
Scintillating. I'm sure
just
we just
do it, man.
wonderful.
Let's just
Oh, look at
we
that.
should just
Iowa scored a touchdown, first one of the year. It's
if
week
now
4.
the difference there is the NFL. I think obviously the rights situation as far as like they own the product across all networks or whatever. Where like in the NCAA, it's weird. It's like you have the conference affiliations, which makes it difficult. But like you said, to your point, if you had one for there's really no reason why the SEC and Big Ten shouldn't have one, some version of this.
Right. I
Um,
agree. I mean, looking at these games, all right, USC and Illinois. So Illinois, like I said, their consolation prize for getting the shit kicked out of them is getting a surging USC team, which I feel like Lincoln Riley is in this weird spot where nobody's talking about him as maybe his seat being a little bit warm, but I would say underperformed, especially having had Caleb Williams there. Is that hot?
no, I mean I don't know if it's hot, but he certainly is underperformed. I think based on expectations,
Expectations, yes.
for sure. I think that what stinks is this: that Illinois managed to win last weekend. College game day is probably going to Champaign for this game.
Maybe
Um, possibly. Where are they going instead now? I don't know if
Happy
I've.
Valley for Oregon Penn
Oh
State.
yeah, okay, so maybe not. They may not have changed anything. Um, so a bummer because that's a place it's never been, and if I don't know when Illinois will be good enough to earn it, but um, that honestly, I think in that situation, I would hate to be USC. You're coming in against an Illinois team that's talented and just got embarrassed.
Yeah.
and
On the road, different
yeah,
time
you're on
zone.
the road, different time zone. 2 time zones away. Game's probably at fucking noon, whatever. I don't know what time it is, but yeah, that's a tough one, man. And Illinois, if they want to bounce back, here's your chance, man, to make a statement to, I guess, show us all how good Indiana really is.
Yeah, well, this is a make it or break it game for both these teams. Is USC surge for real, and is Illinois able to come back? And are they actually as talented as we thought? Game that you're interested in: Notre Dame at Arkansas. Arkansas is a team. It's an SEC team, so you've got to take this seriously. It's not a perennial power, but it's a road game. So I assume you're feeling slightly uneasy.
Well, especially, I mean, their offense is legit. Notre Dame's defense has had some issues, so like that has me concerned. This is an Arkansas team. I don't know how well liked Sam Pittman is amongst his players. I mean, he seems like a likable, like he's almost like of the same cloth as like an MCDC, like
Yeah.
real. And and he's coaching for his job at this point. He was on Budge's list of one of the top 10 guys that's on the hot seat. And sometimes that's a dangerous thing, if especially if a program is going to rally around a coach that might have his job in jeopardy. SEC game on the road, as you mentioned, Notre Dame's have to show up and play their best game.
Is Arkansas, how do I phrase this? Is that the kind of college football job that's a thankless college football job? Like you're almost kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in that
Yes.
sense, because you don't expect anything out of them, and they never really produce anything major, if that makes sense. They've had blips here and there, but for the most part, they're like middle of the pack in the SEC, which you take, but also like I don't know. I don't see coaches you're not going to see a coach be there for like 20 years. It's not
No,
that
you're
kind of
right.
a school. Just
No,
my
not at
opinion.
all. Yeah,
All right.
I agree 100%.
Clipping that for sure. Okay, LSU at Ole Miss. That's going to be great, right? That just because two completely opposite guys. One's a troll, the other's an asshole, and both of these teams are theoretically good.
Yeah, and this is like, it's like, okay, who's for real type of thing, right? I mean, I think LSU's kind of like, I mean, obviously Clemson's proving to not be as good as we thought they were, but this is a game that's like, okay, who's going to be that emerging team in the SEC? That's kind of been on that second tier for the last couple of years, and so that's one thing I'll find super interesting.
Yes. Super interesting is
Super interesting.
understatement.
No, I mean, I
Understatement of the year.
love Lane. Super contrast of personalities too
Yes.
between Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly.
Yeah, we're going to get some great post-game fodder no matter what happens, but this game usually is a barn burner of some sort. Auburn just lost to Oklahoma, and now Mike Elko and crew get to host them. This is another game, right, where obviously Texas A&M got the big win against Notre Dame. They played a crappy opponent last week. We're good. And now Auburn has to come off a loss to an Oklahoma team who's not really an SEC team, but everybody thinks is good. And they've got to get it together, much like Illinois, but this time they got to travel to a really tough place to play. And Mike Elko has the boy, like they play big boy football under Mike Elko. I will say that.
I mean, as a Notre Dame fan, I think the Texas A&M is one of the best teams in the country.
You should.
So
Yeah, they're going undefeated.
of course,
Undefeated.
And I have our
Is that my man
host
again?
has arrived.
Yes, our guest host.
I think that no, I mean, it's a game that I would like to see Texas A&M win. Obviously, as a Notre Dame fan, put your hand up here, buddy. There you go. Your little
All right.
man
You're
had
no
3
longer
goals.
alone.
This man had 3 goals. Look, hold it up there, buddy, for everybody to see. Show them all. 3 goals in a soccer game last Saturday. The old hat trick. Very proud of it.
MVP.
But no,
MVP.
honestly, man, like I agree with you. Texas A&M, I think, is for real. We'll see. I hope they're for real. And Mike Elko's a likable guy, I think, at the same time.
This is prove it week, in my opinion. Looking at some of these
call.
games. Alabama at Georgia. Kalen DeBoer, buddy, if you're going to take a big leap, this is the time to do it. And Kirby Smart is probably going to think, not on my watch. But I actually think Gunnar Stockton, he makes me pretty good.
Yeah, that's a game that, like, I just want the drama of Georgia blowing Alabama out. That's what I want to
goodness.
happen. Like, I need it.
Chaos. You want chaos. Sure. That's what you need.
Always.
And last game of the week that we're going to talk about, Oregon at Penn State. Is Penn State for real? We ask this question every year. They get a big-time opponent, and they fall flat. This is the moment. They get a home game. It's a whiteout. Oregon is ready to go. We'll see how it goes.
I think Oregon is going to blow the...
One time.
Yeah, 1 goal, 1 time. Good job, man. I think Oregon's going to blow the doors off of Penn State. Like, I just don't believe in James Franklin, man. Like, I have no faith in James Franklin at all. Like
You called him
I
the Jared Goff of college football
I
coaches, I
just
think.
think that I really do, man. I think that Oregon is just going to absolutely obliterate them.
What is it about James Franklin that you think doesn't translate to winning big games? Now, on the other side of that, Oregon has been a program that has made some big games, but never gotten over the hump. And obviously, Dan Lanning got embarrassed by Ohio State last year. So it's not as if they just constantly win the big game. But James Franklin has great teams and obviously produces NFL players, but they never ever can get out of the shadow of Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten. Like they just can't.
I just think he always gets out coached.
Is that what it is?
I think there's a lot of things that happen over the course of a game. It happened in the Notre Dame game in the playoff. He gets out coached.
That's interesting. I mean, it's possible. But here's the thing, right? Penn State and James Franklin are in this weird relationship now because if you're Penn State, unequivocal success under James Franklin. If you're going to move on from him, who do you bring in?
Good. No, absolutely. And that's just it. Like, no one's happy with 10-2. And that's the issue these days. No one's happy with 10-2. James Franklin will be able to have Penn State at 10-2 almost all the time, but that's not good enough for a lot of people. And you're right. Who do you bring in? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like only one team can win the national championship this season, and I have no idea. I really don't. I mean,
they're in a weird spot.
That's the question, right? For Clemson, for Penn State, for all these big programs that don't love their coach, that's the question. The million dollar question.
Penn State is a program that is still thinking, or people still think of them as the Joe Paterno years, kind of like Indiana basketball, Florida State football under Bobby Bowden, and they're removed from that now. They get the benefit of the doubt because I think people see the white helmets and the classic uniforms, and they think of those Joe Paterno years where they were highly successful. But now it's different. And so is it possible that when we look at Penn State and evaluate them, that we are evaluating them in the wrong set of criteria? We should be looking at them in what they are now, which is nothing to be shamed at, a perennial 10-win team. Like you'd take that all day long.
No, absolutely you would. I mean, it's just modern sports. It's the modern world. Everyone's so impatient and no one's willing to wait. The phrase "let it cook," "let them cook" is like it's like a pop culture phrase, but no one's willing to actually do it. You know what I mean?
That is very true. But there's a lot of money on the line. But look, we had a bunch of stuff we could have talked about with the NFL. We did talk about a little bit of stuff at the beginning of the show with the Colts and everything. There's a lot of great games. Still so much football to play. There's a ton of football that's going to be happening this weekend. We're going to be there to cover it for you next week. And I want to say this, first of all, everybody who shows up here, we do appreciate everything. Carver, we appreciate everything that you do for the show. 3 fingers, 1 goal the one time. The Bears are terrible. He has takes all over the place. But we do. We seriously can't say enough how much we appreciate anybody who listens to this. And it's great to be able to come back on here in a world that feels ever uncertain by the hour. It feels. It's nice to have a sanctuary here where we can come here and talk about something that is kind of meaningless in football. So I appreciate your friendship and everybody who tunes in. And if you got anything to say before we get out?
No, I couldn't agree more, man. Like it's such a welcome distraction from just the day-to-day BS. And I'm happy we have this opportunity. I'm happy that those of you that come here and share this with us, and just I hope we keep building it and just more to talk about. And it's great. And I just love me some college football, man. I think there's nothing better.
I love just talking sports and talking with you. So everybody, as I always say, I hope this finds you well and I hope this finds you safe. We hope you have a great weekend of football. And guess what? We'll see you next week.